Today on The Big Story, Australia scrambles to rescue thousands of people stranded on the East Coast in one of the country's most devastating bushfire seasons yet. In its second phase of upgrading, Singapore's oldest MRT line's renewal program will ring up a bill of over $2 billion. Find out how the improvements will benefit commuters. All those looking to fill your tum-tum with yum-yum, you're in for a treat. A new food series launches this weekend. It's Friday, 5:30 p.m. here in Singapore, and you're watching The Big Story, where we will discuss the hottest topics of the day and explain why it matters. I'm Haryanto Diman, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. A race against time as the Australian Navy is scrambling to rescue thousands of people stranded on the East Coast in one of the country's most devastating bushfire seasons yet. Australia is bracing for a weekend heatwave expected to fan deadly fires across the states of Victoria and New South Wales. At least 18 people are known to have died, while the blazes have destroyed more than 1,300 homes and scorched over 5.5 million hectares across the country. To discuss further on this issue, we have climate change editor David Fugati. Welcome, David. Now, David, if you could share with us first, how bad is the situation now in Australia? Why haven't they been able to control the fire?
So the situation at the moment is, certainly for New South Wales, it's unprecedented. The fires started particularly early, and they burned, certainly in New South Wales, something like 4 million hectares, which is almost the size of Holland, if you like. Yeah. The fires were threatening Sydney. Those fires are still burning, but they're not quite as bad. The real problem now is the south coast area and inland in the alpine region of New South Wales, where there are severe fires burning, and those are expected to literally, if you look at the forecast map, to rapidly spread tomorrow under high wind and very hot conditions, leading to some evacuations of towns. It's a similar situation in eastern Victoria. Yeah. Why these fires can't be controlled? They're just simply too large and they're moving far too quickly. Yeah. There's been a drought of lasted at least 2 years. That's made conditions extremely flammable. Yeah. And the traditional, the Australian bush, it does burn. I mean, it's evolved to take fire. Yeah. But the problem is that the conditions that are driving these fires, of particularly high temperatures, extremely dry conditions, very low humidity, just leads to basically an explosive fire. Some of these flames have been going up to 70 metres high or more. It's just a wall of fire that just comes right at you. Right. No amount of, high pressure hoses or aerial bombardment is going to stop a fire, particularly when it's... Some of these fires are now double or triple the size of Singapore and have fire fronts of 100 kilometres or more. They're just impossible.
Now, just to show how bad the fire is, even rescue workers are not spared. They are also risking their lives. Let's have a look at these images from the New South Wales Fire and Rescue Department Twitter page. Now, as you can see here, the rescue crew was en route to the fire scene when they got caught in the blaze and had to take shelter in their truck. Now, clearly, as you can see here, the fire is just blazing on and on. It's really bad. Now, this crisis here, as you mentioned, is unprecedented, and it has sparked street protests calling on the government to immediately act on climate change, which scientists are saying creating a longer and more intense bushfire season. You know, David, if you could explain to us, does climate change really contribute to this?
Absolutely. So these fires can't be blamed 100% on climate change. As I said, you know, fires have occurred naturally in Australia, you know, particularly during the summer season, which is usually the main time.
Yeah.
But what's happened this time around, basically, and has been, not just this year, but certainly in the past decade, is that fire seasons have become longer. And in this case, certainly last year, it started much earlier than usual.
Yeah.
You know, there's a very long drought, partly started by natural conditions, but also I think, you know, longer droughts, more intense droughts is a climate change signal, as is rising temperatures. Numerous heat records have been broken every year in the past 5 years, I think, in Australia. And now we have, you know, record temperatures, record low rainfall, very low humidity. These are all the sorts of things that scientists have long been warning will be the sort of conditions you expect as the planet heats up and as the weather changes. So basically the warnings from scientists have really finally come home to roost, and Australia is experiencing exactly what fire chiefs have been warning about for years, climate scientists have been warning for years. You know, the complex computer models that climate scientists use have been pointing to these sorts of conditions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming on to the show to explain to us more on the bushfire crisis in Australia. And of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to those in Australia and affected by the wildfires. To read more on this issue, you can check it out on our website, straitstimes.com. Now, moving on to our second segment, Singapore's oldest and most heavily used MRT lines, the North-South and East-West lines, are now into their second phase of upgrading. And the bill, well, it's to the tune of more than $2.5 billion, said Transport Minister Khaw Boon Wan. During a visit to Bukit Batok Station on the North-South line yesterday, Mr. Khaw said the second phase of the renewal program was underway. It involves replacing the power supply system, track circuits and first-generation trains. The first phase saw the rail sleepers, third rail and signalling system of the two lines being replaced. To speed up the renewal works, parts of the two lines have been subject to shorter operating hours on Fridays and weekends in recent years. This is expected to continue until the entire project is completed. The renewal program began in 2013 and is expected to be completed by 2024. To tell us more about this renewal program and how it will impact commuters, we have senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Now, Chris, if you could start off first by telling us, right, how's the progress of the renewal works right now? What does the upgrading entail?
Okay, this started in 2013. And three major asset groups have been replaced so far. The third rail, which supplies the power to the trains, the sleepers, which are under the running rails, timber wooden pieces which are replaced with concrete ones, and as well as the signaling system, which determines the space between trains, the headway, the frequency that trains can run on. Okay. These three sets have been replaced already. So now we're moving on to the last three asset groups, which is the power system, the track circuits, and as well as the 66 of the oldest trains that we have in our system, which are going to be replaced.
Okay, and of course, with the upgrading and once it's completed, I think a lot of people are asking, you know, how will this benefit commuters?
Well, first of all, I think we will have fewer incidents of breakdowns that are caused by power trips. If you remember, in recent years, we have had quite a few major disruptions that are actually linked to power trips.
Right.
There was one that tripped up the North, South, and East, West lines, caused hundreds of thousands of people to be stranded. And then there was another one that caused 4 lines to be down. All these things, all these disruptions that are linked to power trips they are actually quite tough to rectify because it takes the power that comes to supply the trains for movement. It's a very complex system,
Right.
And once it's tripped, it takes a long time for them to rectify it and to power it up again. So now they are renewing all the parts, the transformers, the rectifiers, the cables themselves. And it takes a long time. It takes about 3 years. We are told that by 2023, the power system will be upgraded, and then there will be the track circuit, and then the arrival of the trains from next year.
Right. And Chris, of course, this is ongoing, and it's going to be completed by 2024. Are we looking at other improvements or future plans that we can expect from the train sector?
Beyond the disruptions, I think we can see or we can expect higher frequency of trains because the higher power capacity will allow us to put more trains into the system. And with more trains, you can have shorter headways. It means higher frequency of trains and shorter waiting times. But exactly how or when this will happen, we don't know yet, but we can assume that by the time this whole program, the second phase, finishes by 2024, we can expect some of these things to come along. Because right now, although the breakdowns have quietened down, we have far fewer than we have had in the recent years. Crowdedness is still an issue. Now, even though we have added more trains onto the system, there are about now 145 trains during the morning peak. This is up from about 120 a few years ago. So that has helped in some ways. But for the crowdedness during the morning peak to be really solved, we need more trains. And to have more trains, we need the power system to be up.
And efficient and running as well. And of course, there are the new lines as well that we can expect. Thomson is line, and then there is the Cross Island line as well, and all that, right?
Those will be further down the road. Up to 2030, up to 2031.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on to the show to share with us more about the renewal program the SMRT has embarked to improve the system for our MRTs. Of course, for all these MRT-related issues, you can read on our website, straitstimes.com. And now let's move on to What's Trending, where Renee will share with us what's buzzing in the internetverse. Over to you, Renee.
Thanks, Haryanto. It's time for What's Trending. Travellers arriving at Changi Airport from Wuhan will have to undergo temperature screening due to a pneumonia outbreak in the Chinese city. Those with symptoms like fever who had travelled to Wuhan at least 14 days before will be isolated to prevent transmission. At least 27 cases have been reported in Wuhan related to a seafood market that is believed to be the source of the virus. Hong Kong is also on alert, with border screenings being set up. Next, with the start of the new year, normal and express stream students are now taking classes together in some schools as part of the new subject-based banding system. Education Minister Ong Ye Kung said the changes mark a big step ahead in helping students discover their potential and find their strengths. Here's wishing them all the best for the new school year. And finally, the next time you go stargazing, you could be looking at our very own Singapore original. A star and its orbiting planet were officially named by a Singapore student after a public vote. The star was christened Param Leo, Latin for Little Lion, while its exoplanet Viculus, or Little Village in Latin, symbolizes the community spirit of Singaporeans. And that's all we have for What's Trending today. If you've seen a story you want to share, link it in the comment section below. Back to you, Haryanto.
Yeah, that's right, Renee. Of course, we'd like to wish all our students out there who are starting school, have a good school ahead. Now, foodies out there, we have good news for you. Straits Times Food is launching a new food series under the radar this weekend. Now, we have Hedy with new food series under the radar will feature ST Foodline editor Hedy Koo making her way to the heartlands to find delectable food. Apart from sharing the food offerings found in the heartlands, she will also talk to the hawkers to get the stories behind these delicious food. The first installment will see Hedy making her way to the quaint neighborhood of Whampoa. Now, just a little excitement earlier on because, hey, we're on the topic of food, right? It's a favorite topic among Singaporeans. And we have with us right here Hedi in the studio to share more about this series.
Hi.
Welcome, Hedi. Now, Hedi, if you could first tell us, more about this series. Any teasers that you can share with us? What inspired you to start this series?
Well, the series is about me going into neighborhoods, old estates, and we're going to start off with Whampoa Makan Place. And I stumbled upon the place quite by accident because I was covering an assignment nearby and I was very hungry and I stopped by. And I thought, okay, not very impressive because this place is famous for rojak and fish soup and I don't know, durian in nearby Balestier. So I was like, okay, does this chicken stall still open at 4 p.m.? I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. I ordered a drumstick. And then all the time I was very worried that she was going to cut my throat. Because, I'm not familiar with this place. I used to hang out there a long time ago, but I haven't been there in recent years. So I took a bite and I was blown away because it was so tasty and really tasty.
Okay.
The chicken, the soy sauce on the chicken and all that. And I've been looking for the perfect chicken rice and I haven't really found one that really suits my taste. But this one blew me away and I thought, I think my taste buds are off because I'm just raving mad and hungry and desperate. So 2 days later I returned. I ordered the chicken again and this time I wasn't hungry because I already had half a lunch. It was still tasty and I really found it to my liking and I thought, okay, and that kind of got me taking a look around. It's what other, because I'm there already, right? I might as well take a look around. What else do they have, that I could eat? And I paid quite a number of visits there and then I told my boss about it and then she suggested that, we should do a series.
And so Whampoa is going to be the first installment?
Yes.
What other places? Maybe if you could share with us?
I have,
or is it a secret?
It's a secret because I've got a few other neighborhoods in mind. And part of the reason for this series is to get Singaporeans to explore Singapore. I mean, if you're not going out of the country, maybe it's not the holiday season, never mind, why don't you just take a look at what our own country has to offer in terms of food and good deals in the neighborhoods. Because, being Singaporean, sometimes we will say, oh, just to go to Clementi is very far. Or just to travel outside of your neighborhood is very far. But yet people are willing to go down to town areas and things like that. So it's good to get out of your own neighborhood and explore, what we have. And that's a lot.
And sometimes there are, hidden jewels, right, at these neighborhoods, right?
Absolutely, yes. Hidden gems, yes.
And how often is this series going to be out? So it's going to be a weekly series?
No, it's not going to be a weekly series. We'll have to see how it goes, depending on what I can find, what I can hunt down.
But of course, the first one is going to be this weekend?
Yes, this weekend. And I'll be sharing with our readers and viewers about where you can get really fantastic Portuguese egg tarts without having to go to Macau. Really, really worth eating. In fact, I don't really want to share, and I feel quite regretful because being so selfish about delicious food, you're always reluctant to reveal, your personal
just
favorites.
Just in case then there's going to be a long queue and you can't get it anymore.
Yes, I feel that, but I have to be professional, right? And that's my job to share where to find good food. But at the hawker center, you can also find really good xiao long bao and handmade dumplings by the store owner who is, I don't know, he says he spends his off days slicing the ginger, for the dip. So he's very into it. And, at a time where we rely more and more on technology and stuff, it's very old school. And that kind of reflects the whole place of Whampoa. So even though it's not a local food, but it's become in a way localized, handmade xiao long bao and dumplings. And he makes the dough by hand, mixing the flour by hand. So he doesn't rely on machines to do the dough because he says that some stores have already switched to using, machine-made dough. Because it's easier.
I guess
just
it's
too
that
much work.
personal touch.
It
with
is.
The hands.
It is.
And I guess also like what you mentioned, Whampoa is a very quaint neighborhood.
Yes.
It adds to the whole ambience and charm.
Very old school.
And it probably just makes the whole eating experience a lot more enjoyable as well.
It does. I do feel like when I step into it, it's like stepping back in time, where time is slow and
Well,
hope
thank you
readers will
so
like it.
Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for coming
Yes.
on to the show to tell us more, and of course to satiate our appetite just before dinner as well. I think
Yeah.
very good, very good to have you. Now, don't forget to read Heidi's Under the Radar series starting this weekend in our papers. There we have it, our top stories for today. For more news and videos, you can log on to our website, straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Haryanto. Have a good weekend, and we will see you on Monday.